Hi, everyone. Brad here with Ivory. I'm also joined by Tammy Kenlin, and then we have Margaret with us as well. She's going to be monitoring the chat. Welcome, everybody, to the next Ivory Academy session. Today, we're going to be covering dwelling exterior and just going to reiterate some of the things we've gone over previously. So these are not like, replacement courses for any of the official trainings for 3.6. This is just us showing you how to complete these sections using Ivory on our platform.
So one thing you can do is when he shares, you can use, there's a little arrow that you can go into full screen mode in case you're not already in there.
Yep. All right, guys. So we're starting at the dashboard here. This is what we're seeing, and we're gonna start by going into, and again, we're gonna be covering dwellings today. So I'm just gonna show really quickly. Tammy, do you want me to start and show the
Yeah, let me just put it into frame. So one of the things you
Sure.
want to do when you first get your report set up is make sure you have your dwellings and units set up correctly. Okay. So, and there's a couple different ways this can happen depending on whether you're using which of the levels you're using, Core, Vision, or Ultra. So we're going to start by showing if you were using, which one you're doing first? You're doing
Vision and Core Ultra
Ultra
first.
and Vision. Yeah, so you're going to use the autofill to show the setup.
Yep. So just I'm doing, guys, is just showing you when you're doing the setup process on Vision and Ultra, there's 5 setup steps. The first one that you will go into after putting in the address here will give you the ability to add dwellings and outbuildings. And I'm going to mention outbuildings. We're going to actually do that in another session, so we're not going to go too much in a deep dive there. But just showing you from the beginning with those 2 levels, if you wanted to add, the number of dwellings, the number of outbuildings, you want to set that up from this page. And then I'm going to go back now, and we're going to go to create new. And we're going to actually just go into a blank report. So I'm going to open up that same property. And then I'm not going to turn on autofill. I just want to create the order and open a blank order. So I'll hit skip and continue. And then Tammy's going to tell you guys how to check this from the documents area on the left.
Okay, so the left, which I call the left nav panel, but anyway, the thing on the left that tells you
Yep.
all the sections. So you see how right now we have one dwelling and one unit. Okay. If from here, if we wanted to add a unit, we hit add unit under that dwelling. You can add as many as you need to. Okay. If you had a second dwelling, you'd hit on the plus there of dwellings and it adds another. So you see what it did there? It added building 2 and it automatically added one unit under it because every dwelling has to have at least one unit. Okay. Now let's just suppose that we went a little crazy with the adding. Before we delete that other dwelling, we wanted to show them something about structure. We do that first, the structure ID thing. So if you
Yep.
do have more than one dwelling, okay, like in this case here, which we're showing you here because we don't have that in our example, there's a field there called structure identifier, and it enables you to call the building whatever you want. Most people probably call it building 1 and the second one building 2. You have to go in there and type what you want it to be. But you can call it whatever you want, whatever your client calls it, whatever the people call it. You know, the left side house, the right side house, the greenhouse, blue house. You can name it whatever you want. You have some number, looks like you have 30 characters to come up with what you want to call your dwellings. Okay. Um, so then again, if you accidentally added one by mistake, you hit the trash can. If you delete that dwelling, see how it deleted the unit too? For the same reason. Every dwelling has one. You can't have a phantom unit with no dwelling. Okay. And the same thing here. Now, one caveat I'll make here, which we actually did the other day to our actual test case, and I've seen
Yeah.
people do this in production. If you have too many units, be sure you delete the wrong ones and not the right ones, because otherwise you'll have to re-input everything for your good unit. Okay. So that's an easy way. So again, no matter how many, if you have 4 buildings, each with one unit, one building with 4 units, whatever, you set it all up in here. Okay. Um, we did the dwelling ID. Okay, so now let's bring up C1 and let's look at the dwelling exterior section. Okay. So you notice up at the top, there's a whole bunch of fields. And as I've those who've been on these calls before, you know, this document C1 is from the GSEs. We'll have it on our website soon, but in the meantime, you can get it from the GSE site. It has every possible field that might ever display. You will never see all these fields on any one report. Okay. So as an example, down at the bottom, attic, economic life, effective age, commentary on income. Those are all you're only going to ever see with FHA, VA, USDA fields. Okay. Reports. We're going to show you there's some fields in the middle there involving townhouses. There's 4 fields there. We'll show you how they would fire. And there's some other fields in there that are future fields, which we'll talk about, which again, you'll never see anytime soon anyway. Okay. So beyond that, we have our quality and condition for the exterior quality and condition ratings, as well as the features, the walls and trim, foundation, roof, and windows. Okay. Um, you notice there's an extra line there for an other exterior feature. It's theoretically possible in the data that you could add another feature, but when I was at Fannie Mae, nobody could think of one to even do as an example in a sample scenario. Okay. But it's just there in the data if ever needed. I imagine it would be a unique property of some sort. Okay. Um, and something else to say about this section, if homeowner responsible for maintenance back in subject property is no, you won't see this section. Okay, subsection. So if homeowner responsible for maintenance is no, you don't report exterior quality and conditions or report on any of the exterior features. Okay, so in our example, we're going to have homeowner. You remember the example we've been working on the last couple sessions. Homeowner responsible for maintenance is yes. So we're going to see this section. Okay. Next is non-continuous finished area. We'll talk about that. That's area that's attached to the dwelling, but separate and not accessible from any unit. So an example would be you had a dwelling with a attached or built-in garage, and there was a space above the garage that maybe had like a bathroom and office or something like that. We'll show, or family room or something. We'll show you that. Okay. Again, if there's no non-continuous finished area, this whole gray bar and everything under it doesn't display. Okay. Mechanical system details. This is, you're used to seeing most of these fields, heating and cooling, and we'll go through them. Then we have our defects, which I call the DDDs. We'll talk about some DDDs in this section. And then we have our commentary and our exhibits. Okay, we good? So let's go into our report.
Okay, so just for navigation, guys, I'm back on the dashboard. I'm actually going to show you guys just, it usually opens up on your personal view. Tammy and I have our organization, and we actually underwent a merger and a company name change. So this is no longer Brad Inc. It's now Brammy Inc. So we want to be inclusive here. So we're in our organization now. Here's that report that we've been working on. I'm going to open that up. And then we're going to navigate. So again, like Tammy said, the nav bar, documents tab, table of contents, whatever you want to reference, that's how you can steer around. I'm going to go down to the dwelling exterior section, and this is where we're going to start. And I'm going to pull open the report validation tool because, this is a good practice. Tammy brings it up a lot to have this open so you can kind of see how your actions are affecting those required fields.
Okay. So the first field you see there is units and structure. You see it's grayed out. That is automatically calculated by Ivory, and it's again based on over on the left, which he just closed. Can you just open it? Sorry. See how we only have one unit under this dwelling. Okay. So Ivory's automatically calculating that field for you. And we'll update it. We're not going to add anything, but if we did, it would say 2 units in structure or whatever. Okay. The dwelling style, there's quite a number of selections. You can read through them at your leisure, and you're going to pick really what's common in your area, whatever this thing is called in your market area. The front door elevation, you see it has a lot of sort of wide choices. Somebody described it to me one time, it's the wide ranges. You're not expected to get a yardstick out to measure it. Somebody said, you look at the steps in front of the door, a step is X number of inches, count how many steps there are, and
Mhm.
it's an estimate. Um, year built. So you'll notice here so you type in, you put in the year built, but this year built estimated, you'll see this a lot in U83.6. In Legacy in 2.6 used to type in a tilde for certain things that meant that it was estimated. Okay. So there's a number of fields you'll find it'll say something, something estimated, yes or no. If you pick yes, it will display with a tilde on the PDF. Okay. You need to not try to type the tilde into the actual field, which it won't let you do right now, but previously we did have some issues with that before we stopped the ability to do that. So there's a lot, like I said, if it's estimated, you do yes, and it'll display in the PDF with a tilde. In fact, why don't we put the yes in, just so when we look at the PDF later, we can see the tilde. Okay.
Sounds good.
Um, so construction method, this is a new thing. You can have multiple construction methods, and this is a change. A common one you'll see is site built and manufactured. We'll cover that when we do the manufactured home section in a couple sessions from now. One of the things we wanted to show you is if you pick modular, you get another question over there. See on the right? And you also see in the right there in the Aivre validation. So it's telling you you need the factory built certification field, which is, I think it's just a yes or no. Yeah. So if you take out the modular, field goes away. Okay. So most, as you know, most of the majority are going to be site built. So we'll keep going. There's two fields over on the right, structure volume and window surface area. They are future fields. If they ever become a thing, I think there'll be a big announcement and everybody will know about it. What it had to do was possibly some future technology that would be able to measure these things for you automatically. And so when that becomes a reality, like I said, it'll be a big news and we'll all know, and this is where it'll go. So in the meantime, again, if you don't answer it, it doesn't display on the PDF. Okay. So next, let's go to converted area. And in this case, we've already pre-selected it as yes, which is okay. If it's not, you pick no, and his little friends go away. Okay. But since we pick yes for converted area, now you've seen this. This is a construct you see a lot. When you add a new thing, there's a red box with a plus. So you guys know how to do that. So you pick whatever the purpose was, the original purpose and the similarity to the rest of the living area. You can have multiple. Again, you use the X if you added too many by mistake. Okay. Okay, so we forgot, we wanted to go, you're right. So
We
we
didn't forget we're going to now. You're right on
so
pace.
there's 4 fields that are specifically related to row houses and townhouses. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and change this appraisal to be attached and make it a row house townhouse briefly so you can see the 4 fields. Then we'll put it back the way we have it. Okay. So let's go to subject property. And underneath there, yep, change that to attached. And go back to dwelling. Now, see, there's another field right there already, structure design. So if it's attached, you have to tell which one of these it is, high rise, low rise, mid rise, semi-detached, row house, townhouse. So we're going to pick row house, townhouse, and there's more fields. Okay. So the first thing is it an N unit? Is it a back-to-back? Are there units above or below it? And if you answer yes to that, you tell which unit your property is in. Is it the top, middle, or bottom unit? Okay. If you would have picked no to units above or below, that other field goes bye-bye. Okay. So those are, it's a certain properties in certain areas have these are quite common. So if you do these, this is where you'll see these will come up and it'll be driven by the fact that you said it was attached over in subject property. So now we're going to change this back to detached. All right. Now I need a little breath here. All right. So we'll put back in our dwelling style. So we're good now, right?
You were good to go. Yep.
Okay. So next you have your 4. Now, if you would have done this from if for some reason the AI wasn't able to identify this, or if you would have been using core and started from scratch, you would add this information: walls and trim, foundation, roof, and windows. So they all kind of have a similar construct. You see it where you have the thing, like in this case, walls and trim. Okay. Then you have facts about it. In this case, wall materials, which is a selection, one or more. You have, if you want, you can put in a quality comment or a condition comment. You do have to indicate the condition status, which you can't unpick now that we picked it, but yeah. So foundation, similar. So you put in your foundation styles. In this case, I'm sorry, your materials. You can have multiple. So if you take out that basement just for funsies. So somebody the other day got a revision request for basement and they couldn't figure out where it was. Well, now you know, to indicate about the basement. So you'd put in, if you have a basement, let's just say, and then if you have, say you had a crawl space also, you can add that there. Okay. The roof. So the interesting thing the roof has that, wait, before you get, so right now you notice that the roof is observable. Okay. And you see the condition status is there. If you would pick roof unobservable, I guess the typical answer would be in the wintertime, you don't have to report condition status. And on the PDF, it will display unobservable in that little table for the roof. Okay. So we can change it back to yes. And then again, you do the estimated age. So I see a question from somebody. If you remove a section by accident, is there an undo feature? Sadly, no. Huh. So don't do that. Um, yeah. Um, let's see. So is that it for the
Just
exterior
windows,
features?
yeah, but
Windows, I'm sorry. So Windows, you notice, is a little different. There's not a pick list. You type in words to describe the windows.
perfect.
Hold on, I noticed something. Okay. Um, let me just make sure we got everything here. Um, okay. So now we're going to move into non-continuous finished area. And again, do we remember what it is? It is, I can tell you, hold
Yeah,
on.
non-continuous finished area, it's if it doesn't have, it wasn't accessible by the main dwelling, but attached to the main dwelling. That was part of the criteria, but not an ADU, I think.
And not accessible. Let me find the actual words just to be, it was something like that, but let's just find them here. Um, I'm just looking at F1. Okay. Attached to the dwelling, but separate and not directly accessible from any unit. Okay. So the example that we put in here, if we put in yes, put in your area, and what are you going to do? Like a bathroom and a whatever,
Yep.
some other
So
room.
number of rooms, and then I'll do a full bath Tammy, and then how about a rec room for the other one?
Okay.
I'd have to pick one that's hard to find. Media room.
All right. Good. So that's how you do that. You would most likely put a comment in the dwelling exterior commentary about, where the room is, blah, blah, above the garage, blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
Um, so now we go to mechanical systems. So you have your heating. Um, oh, I forgot to mention for the non-continuous finished area, photo can also be noted below. We'll see that when we get down to the exhibits. Um, so in the heating, you have your common construct. You can have more than one, but let's say we have none. So yeah, so we're going to add a heating system, and type in none, then you're going to get that additional question there. See, lack of heating typical for market. So say it's in Hawaii or somewhere, you might answer yes. Okay, or no, either one. But going back, so let's put a real heating system back in. Okay. So then for cooling, if it doesn't exist, you're done. Okay. If it does exist, you tell the type. You can have multiple, theoretically. I don't know how you would, but anyway. There's your cooling. Okay, so heating and cooling's done. Now there's this question whether the core heating system is below grade. Um, I'm just noticing little smalls here. All right. So you have other mechanical systems. Go ahead and do a plus. There's other things you could put in if you wanted. So now we're up to our defects. So we talked about the defects last time. Remember that they display in one of 6 sections: site, dwelling exterior, unit interior, outbuilding, vehicle storage, and amenities. So you want to put the defect in the place where it belongs. So for dwelling exterior defects, can you pop back to C1 real quick?
Yep.
Scroll up.
So,
Just scroll up. So
okay.
let's see everything that's in here. So your
Oh, right.
dwelling, if you go all the way up, so your dwelling exterior defects, if you had something about one of these areas, like for example, if it was an FHA and you had something to talk about the attic, it would go here. Okay. If you had about any of these areas, something about the converted area would go here. Okay. If you scroll down a little bit, all of the things, so anything related to your walls and trim, foundation, roof, or windows would go in here. Your non-continuous finished area, if it existed, any of your mechanical system issues, that's what goes in this section. Okay. Um, so now we want to add a defect here. I think Brad, we found one, didn't we?
Yep. So I'm adding it for the roof. So I'll put in the feature as the roof. It's going to ask location. I'm going to select other. You're going to type in the location for us, its entire roof. And then I have this description that is a required field. So just that it's missing shingles. Does it affect the structural soundness or structural integrity or soundness? I'm going to say yes. And then recommended action for this one, we're going to say repair. And Tammy's going to touch on something with that field in just a minute. I'm just going to add the photo to finish this up. So I click the plus per usual. I can select the
Wait,
photo.
notice he doesn't have his photo yet. And there's a little validation over there on the right. Defect exhibit photo required.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can see that
Now,
in red too. So this will
right.
clear that out.
So I will say that if it would be something that's not a physical defect, the only thing I could think of would be like odor or something. If it's not a physical defect, then you don't need that photo and you would ignore that validation. But it's there, assuming that 99 times out of 100, it's going to be a physical defect. Okay. Um, so the other thing is in the photo caption, we wanted to mention because um, so because this photo is part of a defect, okay, if you scroll up a little bit and you see that, yes, okay. So in this case, it knows it's going to probably, when we go look at the PDF later, I suspect it already knows it's on a roof, okay? So you don't have to repeat roof. But what you might want to say is missing shingles just to give some context to the photo, okay? Um, Something else we wanted to talk about is the field recommended action in the defects. So You see how there's that none answer. So you could use this for items that don't require repair, replacement, inspection, or completion. You could still use this DDD construct to report them, and you would pick recommended action of none. An example might be something that the client asked about, well, what about this, and you're like, it's fine. Well, you might just put it in there to make it easier for them to see that it's not an issue that needs to really be addressed. Um, we talked last time about cost to repair reporting options. We there you do have the options for reporting the cost to cure, and we'll cover that in the reconciliation section when we get to that. But just keep that in mind that it is there. What else do we want to talk about?
I think that was. So I'll talk about the commentary fill assist really
Yeah.
just briefly, Tamia. We've mentioned this, and this is true of pretty of every section of the report that has commentary fields. Pretty much every one will give you the option to use commentary fill assist. And I think we had one down at the bottom, right? There it is. Yep. So for your general dwelling exterior commentary, we can see that that's not red. So technically not required. Like Tammy mentioned, though, if there are things you need to address, you will, probably want to put a blurb in here describing them. So that non-continuous area, if you had one, for example. But the way that this works, you just click on commentary fill assist. This lets you prompt the AI and tell it what you want to, what the comment should contain. And then it'll generate that comment for you in nice, professional sounding text, put it into this field, and then you have the ability to save it to your commentary database as well.
Right, and that's similar, like he said, it's in most fields.
Hmm.
Every so often we come across one that we missed, but it is available in most fields, the commentary fill assist, as well as your saved commentary.
Yep.
Um, okay. Now, if we go to the dwelling exterior, so if you just want to click on that drop down there for exhibit category. So this is where you'd put additional photos of the dwelling front, the dwelling rear, your non-continuous area, or if it's a photo of anything else, you just do it as dwelling exterior exhibit, and then you put in the caption what it is. I think we might have forgotten to tell them at the top we added that photo already, so you don't have to add it again. Up at the very top of the section. Yeah, so that was put in. So if you were using core, you have to put at least one dwelling front photo here. You could put additional down at the bottom if you want and label them as dwelling front.
And I can show that really quick too. So if we were doing this on core and we came in and there wasn't a photo, that photo will be in your work file. So I'm going to click right here, select from work file. If it's not in your work file, remember you can always add additional photos using upload. So this is my work file button up here. I can click on upload. That pulls open my file explorer and I can add additional photos. Once they're in there, I can click select from work file. That's going to pull open all the photos and documents tied to this assignment. I'm going to scroll down and find our exterior front photo. Scrolled a little too fast. There we go. And then use image, and that'll put it in there.
Okay,
All
so
right.
we've done all that. So why don't we look at our PDF so far? So this is something that I tell people all the time. I like to look at the PDF because, hold one sec, because you can see along the way, and it's easier for me when I'm looking at it to see if I missed something. Okay. So we're going to export as PDF. And again, we don't have to have completed everything yet, but what we should see is the first couple sections anyway. All right. So if you can you make that bigger?
Hmm.
All right. So you can just scroll. So the summary is starting to build. Remember, we're only up to dwelling exterior so far, so we don't have everything done yet. Um, remember that populates from the other section. So here's assignment that we worked on from our first session. We can just keep scrolling.
Yep.
Um,
I'll get
here's
past
the
my
appraiser's
credential.
license. Here's the
Yep.
subject property checkboxes. Here's site, which we worked on. Can't remember last time, the time before. We have some little oddities in here that Brad and I, oh, we fixed that. Good. The
Yep.
lake, good. And the view. Oh, we still have a view of the bay. We got to fix that, but we'll fix it. Um, so you see all of our fields that we had here. You see our utilities. We only have private electric as of now. Keep going down. There's the ever popular plat map.
Hmm.
We'll keep going. Our
There's that
water
fallen tree.
frontage. Yep, there's our fallen tree.
And sketch, we're going to ignore that for now. And then there's dwelling
Here's
exterior.
dwelling. So here we are. So you notice out of those bazillions of fields that displayed in the C1 with every possible field, we have what, like 6 or 7 fields here.
About, yeah,
Yeah. And then here is our table with our exterior features. Here's our
there's a,
non-continuous. And again, if we didn't have any non-continuous finished area, we'd never see this section.
yep,
Our mechanical system, we have our heating and cooling, and we have our defect. And there
perfect.
is our missing shingle photo.
Hmm.
That is
Awesome.
it. So we won't keep going because it's not going to, the rest isn't going to be filled out yet because we haven't got to those sections. But
Right.
yes, you can use this at any time to go.
Yep. And
So,
just to remind you guys, a lot of the most important tools are triggerable from that right side toolbar. So the export is that up arrow. And then that's where I got the printable report is the top option. And you can, like Tammy said, anytime you want to view the output, you can select that. If you haven't passed validation, you won't be able to download the zip. And that just is to basically reduce everyone's exposure to revisions.
so should we? I know, Brad, you have to go to the airport. Do you want
Yeah, I got to
me to
jump. So,
share?
guys, I'm actually on my way to ATA in Texas. I'm going to be presenting at an appraisal conference down there. And then we're going to be at Val Expo. So, any of you guys that are going to be out in Vegas for Expo, come say hi. I would be happy to
Or
chat
in
with you out
Texas,
there. And
or
or
if
in
you're in
Texas if
Texas,
you're down there. If you
yeah.
meet me there, yeah, it's tomorrow. So if you're not in Texas, you might want to hop on my flight. But yep, really appreciate you guys making the time. Tammy, thank you
So we're
so
going to
much.
keep going, but
And
Brad
you
just
guys are
needs
going
to
to keep
drop.
going. I'm just signing off.
Yeah.
So I'll see you guys in the next session. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Safe travels.
Thank you.
All right. So now I'm going to share my screen. Uh, see if I get this right. And I see some good questions in the chat, which we'll get to. Do you see, let's see, you see my Brammy ink, Margaret? You guys see it?
Yeah, yep, we see it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the one we were in. Ah, Brad's still in there. All right. Can you ping him, Margaret, and see if he can tell him he has to get out?
Yep, one
But in the
second.
meantime, I can just go into one of my test cases that I have. Um, go into this one. And the questions were, let me bring up the chat. Now I can't see how to find the chat. Margaret, do you?
You might have to stop sharing your screen in order to see it.
Uh,
While I ping Brad.
let's see. Stop sharing for a second. I apologize. All right. So the first question, one of the questions of where you would add pictures of a deck or porch, no, they go in subject property amenities, which we'll cover in a couple sessions. So the decks and porches are not part of dwelling exterior. And then there's a few more questions about front, rear, left, and right side, yes, and I'll show you that, and multiple exterior photos. Okay. So let me go back to my share again. Share. All right, so I'm just going into this one here that I have an in dwelling. I just have fake photos in here. But if I go down to dwelling exterior, okay, so if I want to add an exhibit. So yes, to your question, you can add multiple. So if you had multiple dwelling front, you would just add it here. Upload your picture of your next dwelling front. And then do the same thing here. If you wanted If you had a bunch of dwelling front, you could do that. Then same thing here. If you have, say you wanted to add some dwelling rear, you could add them. And you might put a caption in if you wanted to, I don't know. It already is going to know it's dwelling front. So if there's anything else you want, you don't have to say dwelling front again. Otherwise it'll show in the report dwelling front, right? But if there's something else you wanted to say about this dwelling front photo showing blah, 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 you have 100 characters to put more words in there. Okay. Some of the other ones, like dwelling side, if you had dwelling side or anything else regarding this section, you would put in as dwelling exterior exhibit, and then you would type in what it was. So for example, if we wanted to do one of the non-continuous, no, that was one I picked, I'm sorry. Show it. Non-continuous area, you'd pick that. So it already knows it's non-continuous area. So again, say whatever you want about that. If you wanted to do more pictures like the dwelling side or something, you could add it here and do dwelling side or something like that, or side of house or whatever words you wanted to say here. Okay. And again, you've seen this before. You can add these to your favorites if you like. You can save it. You can name them. You can give it a star. You can make it have a name, whatever. You can name it just to make it easier to find. So in the example of the person who does a lot of these, you'd probably want to have some of these go ahead and set them up when you're going. Where are the other chat questions, which I cannot see?
I can tell you them. Someone
Okay.
asked, is there a way to select and upload multiple exterior photos at once into the exterior photo exhibits rather than having to upload each photo individually?
No, there's not currently. And I think one of the challenges would be how it would know what went with what. Like, you have all these options here. What is it a picture of? And you need to tell in each one. Now, that being said, the AI autofill will, put in multiple for you. But if you had additional ones that you wanted to add, you would have to go into each one because you're the human and you're the expert and you have to tell the system what it's a picture of. Okay. What else?
Someone asked, please state if it's permitted or unpermitted.
What was that do we know? I don't know what that was in relation to.
Tally Washington asked, Tally, if you could unmute.
Maybe they're shy. It's okay. So you can feel free to
For
follow up on that question.
non-continuous areas.
Permitted or unpermitted. There's not, as you saw, field for that specifically, but I think you would put it in the dwelling exterior commentary. That's a good question, though. Anything else on dwelling exterior?
Thomas asked, has anyone made a template yet? If so, what is the process? Do you make the template and then can you work off of it, changing the address, and will it resave both files?
So I think we're going to take that to be another session, but I think something to think about with the templates or the saved properties is I feel like one of their big uses would be more in like a subdivision where you're doing a lot of properties that are very similar, or a big condo complex where you got a lot of appraisals, for a new complex. In some ways, I feel like the saved commentary gives you more of what you might think of as a template. But that's just my brief opinion, but we'll that'll be in a separate session about the use of the templates and the past reports. If you need to do one or want to do one for a live report, please reach out to us and we can help you individually.
And then one more question in the chat that just popped up. When during the process do you take and save photos?
Again, that's more of a workflow thing, so we can address that separately. I know different appraisers have different methods of how they do that. So
All
we
right, and
can.
I think that's all the questions for you, and then I think I can answer some in the chat too.
Okay, so we're going to go on now to disaster mitigation. Okay, and let me see if I can get back into Grammy. Good. Okay. So right now, this question hasn't been answered about disaster MIT, and you see over here, there's a report validation. So many times the answer will be none. There's no disaster MIT. Okay, in which case you answer none, you're done. All right. But as you probably know, in certain areas, this has become more important. And so you can list have a number of selections, or you can pick another one. You know, what disaster mitigation features are on the property. This is in the property level now. We're not in the dwelling. Okay, we're on the property. Okay, so you could put in whatever they have, you know, and you see this field came up now because we had one. Flood vents and I don't know, whatever we wanted to, we could pick as many as we wanted here. Okay, and then do your same thing, your commentary fill assist, or put in your commentary, you know, blah, blah, impact on value, blah, 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 right? In here. And that is disaster MIT. So we can just do this real quick. I'm just going to type in blah, blah, right? So we can go look at our PDF. Oh, and by the way, before I do that, notice how there's nothing still required for disaster MIT. Let me fix this. There's one photo it says is required. Oh, that's here because we added a photo, but then didn't add it. All right, so we're going to take it out. Okay. So we're clear now. We don't have any report validations on either disaster MIT or dwelling. Okay. So we can go look at our PDF again. Now with mine, it automatically opens. We'll just go scroll down here to, here's a little disaster mitigation section. Okay. When we change this back to none, this section will go away. So it only displays if you have a disaster mitigation feature. Okay. You can also, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention about the photos. Where am I? So here's our exhibit. Same thing here. If you wanted to add an exhibit, it's just going to say disaster mitigation exhibit. So if you wanted to show a photo, which I don't happen to have one, but pretend I did, you know, of the flood vents or the whatever other kind of disaster myth they had, you could put the photos in here, put a caption in saying what it is, etc. Okay, that's how you would do that. Okay. Do we have any questions about disaster mitigation or dwelling? Do you see anything, Margaret?
I don't see anything
I don't
about
see
that
anything about
now.
that, no. Okay. So then I think we'll give everybody a couple minutes back. For our next session on Monday, we're going to do outbuildings, possibly a couple other small sections, because we want to have you understand the foundation of dwellings and outbuildings before we move on to units. So we will do outbuildings on Monday. All right, last call for questions. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good afternoon.